customer or employer. The process called recruitment is, I would suggest, utterly and completely dysfunctional. It is not a process that is focused on finding the best candidate to fill a position. It is a process due to logistics, volumes, and numbers of people playing around in the marketplace that is focused on how can I ditch this candidate. Between the two players, the key players in this process are things like the internet, human resources, recruitment agencies, publications, a wide variety of mechanisms, processes, facilities, or assistance. In today's world, the hiring manager, yes, gets in touch with human resources, who then say, what's the job? And very politely sit there listening to a definition of the job that they don't understand. They don't know what's between the words that are expressed. So as a result, they take an interpretation of that job specification, and then they start saying, normally in our business, because we always hire the best, we have a PhD doing this job. The hiring manager says, I don't care. I just need somebody who can do the job. Got a PhD? Magic. If they haven't, doesn't matter if they can do the job. But we always have a PhD. All right, we'll put it in the spec. We'll sort it out later. Now we have a specification that represents what the hiring manager wants, plus bits. Bits that the company likes to think it likes. This then gets published these days on the internet. They really know how to do this job, but they don't have a PhD. What does the computer do? It looks through the resume, fails to see PhD. This has been flagged as essential. Bin. The computer starts doing this process of ditching people. We'll have human resources pre-process them. Now, the human resources understand the difference between, let's say, a C programmer and a C++ programmer. Often, the person who's doing that filtering doesn't understand that, and more complicated, synonyms for capability, skills, etc. So the human resources person ditches people because their job is to reduce the volume down, not to find the nugget. Eventually a hiring manager gets to see the resumes that have been processed, pre-processed, and is disappointed to find there's no one out there that quite fits the need, but there's somebody in the right ballpark, so let's have them in for an interview. So it's not a good process. The focus of the process is not on finding the right candidate, it's on ditching the wrong candidates. How do you deal with this? The first thing, as a candidate, is to figure out what you're selling. Now, I'll give you an example of where you can go wrong with defining what you're selling. Let's say you set up the car dealerships, and I'm using a real example, for a car manufacturer throughout the entirety of California. You set up 15, 20 dealerships across California. You introduced a new product into the marketplace. You built a revenue stream of several million. You're out there in the marketplace looking for a job. What do? You say, I was the general manager for car dealership type XYZ or car manufacturer. I set up the dealerships across the country and we sold millions of cars for millions of dollars. As soon as that turns up in this process at one of these filtering stages, one reaction is, we're Sony, we sell TVs, not cars, not of interest. But we may be Sony who wish to set up a distribution network for high value screens to be sold throughout several states. The candidate has the skills, I would suggest, to do the job, but not the right proper nouns. That example is a true example. What happened was, the guy that does the dealerships described himself as somebody who could set up a distribution network selling high-value products over wide geographies through independent distributors. That's exactly what Sony wanted. If he had not described himself as such, he would not have gotten the door. So the job as a candidate is to take your skills, analyze them, figure out what they are. Not who you worked for, not what you did, but how you got the job done, what skill you applied. And build a definition of yourself that reflects that. Then go to the other side of the equation, look at what you know of an advertisement or a publication that says there's an opportunity that you might be able to fill. Analyze the opportunity to understand what they really want. That means reading between the lines, because what you'll find on the lines is a whole bunch of marketing blurb about this is the best company since sliced bread. Ditch it, it's not relevant, and the hiring manager really doesn't care. He's looking for somebody who can do the job and somebody that he and his people can work with, a soft skill. Take the specification, read between the lines, look for the repeated terms that may not explicitly define a product or a particular skill or a particular qualification, but understand what it means in terms of skills. Then figure out if in your kit bag of skills you match that job. If you do, apply. But the enemy's out there. Everybody in this process wants to bin you. So watch for this. Immediately you detect anything in the process that indicates that somebody is the enemy, not a friend, not facilitating you applying for that job when you know you're right. Go round it. Now we've got an altogether different challenge. To go round the process, one, you have to be prepared to take the risk. But remember, you've already decided you're probably in the bin. So does it matter if you upset people? Number two, in order to go round the process, you need to identify the hiring manager. So you have to turn into a salesperson. You have to do the research that gets past the gatekeepers and the filtering mechanisms to that individual who needs you. And you know they need you. You would be amazed at how quickly someone will say to you, oh, it's Joe X over there that needs that kind of thing. Personal marketing is 1, know your product. 2, know the process of selling in this particular environment. Number 3, understand the need of the customer. Number 4, go through the process of selling when you know you've got the product they need. Go for it. Get the jobs.